Hi, I'm Eric Price with LI-COR Biosciences. In this video, I will show you how to perform maintenance on your 8200-104 long-term chamber for the soil flux system, the LI-8250. We'll show you how to replace the gasket that goes around the collar, the gasket that goes around the chamber itself, and even how to replace the thermistor. Let's get started. So the first thing you'll want to do with the chamber is to make sure that the bowl is completely open. You can do this by pressing the open button on the side. You'll want to make sure that it's programmed to fully open 180 degrees, which makes it easier for maintenance. There are two different gaskets on the chamber. One is on the bowl itself, and one makes contact between the chamber base plate and the collar that's installed in the ground. This collar gasket may get cracked, become brittle, and eventually start to cause leaks over time. So you will want to visually inspect the gasket and make sure that it's not aged. If it has, if you need to replace it at all, you can do that by removing the ring of Phillips screws and just removing it like this. There are two spare gaskets in your spares kit that come with each chamber, but if you need to order more, you can always do that as well. Once you've removed all of those screws, you'll want to remove the metal ring and the gasket underneath. I've pre-loosened this, but yours may be stuck onto the chamber base plate, so you may need to use a chisel or screwdriver to pry it off of the surface. Be careful with that, not to chip the paint at all, because you may introduce more leaks into the system. Once you've removed the metal ring, discard the old gasket, put the new gasket on, and the best way to do this is to line up the gasket itself first with the holes in the base plate. This is a bit of a slippery gasket, so it may take some work, but once you have the gasket aligned with the holes, then you can just put the metal ring on top of that and start tightening down the screws. Now when you do this, I would recommend tightening one screw here and then going diagonal across the ring and tightening another screw there. You don't want to go around the circle. You want to kind of go in a diagonal way, the same way you would put on a new car tire or put a wheel back onto a car, because we want to make sure that the gasket is evenly distributed and not bunched up in certain areas. So once you have that started, then you'll go around the circle and tighten all of those screws, and that's how you replace that gasket. The other gasket is on the chamber bowl itself, and the easiest way to look at that is to flip the chamber upside down. You can see that the bowl has a ring around it, and this makes contact with the base plate to make sure that we get a good seal. If you visually see that it needs to be replaced, if you can see holes in it, if you can see cracks, then it definitely needs to be replaced. Another thing you might see is that the flux data that you get may be noisier than usual. There may be a lot of jumping around, a lot of noise in the signal, whether that's CO2, methane, N2O. You might see more noise than usual that may indicate you need to replace this gasket. If that's the case, if you see more noise than usual, I would also recommend doing a leak test on the system just to make sure it's not a leak. We have another video describing how to perform a leak test using the multiplexer. But if those are not an issue, then this might be causing some noise if it's not making a good seal against the collar. So to replace this, you would remove this ring and you may need to clean off any remaining adhesive, whether that's with just a paper towel or water or soap. You may need to use something a little bit stronger. I recommend using a product called Goo Gone, or you can use tea tree oil or other oils that are good for removing adhesive. You may also be able to use the adhesive on the old gasket itself and kind of pick off any remaining debris on the chamber itself. You want to make sure that the bowl is nice and clean before you put a new gasket on. This gasket is included in the spares kit as well. It's sold as a long, thin line, but you basically start at one end and it has the adhesive already on it. So you would start, put one end down, and then start to slowly put it on and curve it around the bowl until you get back to where you started. You may have a little bit left over. In that case, you would just cut off the end and make sure that you have a good seal where those two ends meet. When we make these, we use a little bit of Loctite to seal the two ends of that gasket together, so you may want to consider that as well. But again, if you are seeing issues with if there's cracks, if there's holes in this gasket, it definitely needs to be replaced. If you're seeing noisy flux data, it could be due to a leak, it could be due to other factors, but it might be due to a bad gasket that needs to be replaced. The last piece of maintenance you may need to do on a chamber is to replace the thermistor. If you're noticing that the measured chamber temperature is reading incorrectly for whatever reason, it may be due to a broken thermistor. So one way to identify if it's the thermistor or a different issue is to plug the thermistor into other ports. We have 3 ports on the side of the chamber here. The thermistor connects to one of them, but you may want to connect to a different one and see if that resolves the issue. If it does not, if the problem continues, you may want to swap this chamber with other cables, other ports on the multiplexer itself to really identify where the problem is. But once you've identified that the problem is indeed the temperature sensor itself, you may need to replace it. This is not included in the spares kit. You would need to order it separately. But the way you would replace this, it is, let me show you the whole cable. So it runs from this connector here through this braided conduit up here, across the chamber arm, and down into, vertically down into the chamber itself right here. So to replace that, you would order a new cable assembly. You would unscrew this black connector here and sort of wiggle that thermistor up and out. You will probably need to cut all of these cable ties that keep the braid in place and keep it connected to the tubing that's also there. And once you've cut all of those cable ties, then you should be able to sort of unfurl the braid like this. Take the old thermistor cable out and put a new thermistor cable in. Again, make sure you tighten this black connector, tighten that all the way down. You might want to put new cable ties down to seal everything up, and then connect this back to one of these 3 ports, and you're ready to go. And that's how to perform maintenance on your LA8250 soil flux system. We have several other videos on our website about specific details, more about the system and how to use it. And as always, feel free to contact us or our distributors around the world if you have any questions.